Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show, the Sunday supplement. 210 shows we've done now at the Rewind Show, and absolute pleasure, as always, to be with you on a Sunday morning. I'm Steve Brown, and over there in his rightful place, manager of Baker Borough, Brent Peters. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Steve. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just been writing my mum's card out. I'll be popping round to her house later on, and I got the kids their cards, and my kids are cheeky because I gave them 30 quid each yesterday to go into Skipton, and I said, buy your mum something nice. And when I came back last night, I said, what have you got? What have you got? Well, I can't give the game away because Mandy might be upstairs watching, but they come back, said, how much did you spend? Said, well, Joey spent a tenner and I spent 20 quid. So hold on then. So there's 30 quid gone, there's 30 quid shy somewhere. So I gave them 30 quid each, and one spent 20. So there's £10 in her pocket, but the lad's got 20 quid in his. How does that work out?
Well, it's a shrewd business. You know, I have a fallacy this about when people give people money, you know, in terms of presents. Yeah. I go, listen, you can go out there and if you shop about, you could find an absolute diamond of a present, but it's hardly cost you any money. Right, but it's the bee's knees, and it's it's like would fit the bill to the person you're buying it for to a T. Yeah. But if you give them 100 quid and say, there, you've actually spent 100 quid on them, but you could probably get away with only spending 30 quid on them. You get there, and it's an absolute diamond of a present. So when it comes to giving presents, the last thing I want to do, like a hole in the head, is actually give money.
Yeah. So I'll be doing that later on. But talking point today, Brent, the game yesterday, of course, got other things to talk about. I think we're going to catch up. We'll talk about Yeovil Town's a subject at the moment. We'll talk about them later on in the show. But first of all, yesterday's performance and your thoughts regarding the game with Steeton yesterday.
Well, it's deja vu, isn't it? You know, and this is what the biggest disappointment for me again, and I had to is the fact that, you know, these players I've put on a pedestal over the last few years in terms of what they've achieved, where they've taken you guys on a journey, and well as all on a journey. But you've got to remember that one of the challenges that probably the last 2 years, the challenge has been we need to take us as a group to the next level. And that, obviously, I've turned around and said that's great. You know, that's fantastic that you see that as a challenge and you want to achieve your goal, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also said to them, but your mindset has got to be totally different, and on all fronts, because a football season is 9 months.
Yeah,
are thereabouts, and it's intense. And you know, you've got to be consistent to get promotion, to win leagues and get promotion, or even in the playoffs. You've got to be consistent, and to be consistent means that you've got to be performing at the top of your game, not just in a one-off game, but you've got to perform at the top of your game every game. And every game that you and to be able to do that and perform at the top of your game, you've got to have the right mindset and mentality. And within that mindset and mentality, you've got to be hungry and want it, and want to achieve anything that you want. Your world's your oyster. If you want it, you've got to work hard to get it. If you want to be successful in life, you've got to work hard to get it. Nobody hands you anything on a plate.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go into it, you've got to be able to perform at the top of your game every game, right? everything's, your preparation, your mindset has got to be spot on. You can't record, if you're playing in the amateur leagues and you see it, people just don't, you know, it's easy for them in an amateur league because, you know, it's all the mates together. They turn up, they'll train. It doesn't matter whether they train or they don't train. Normally they're picked. You know, they'll go out and you know, they'll go on the beer the night before or whatever, and they'll have late nights. It'll be hit and miss whether they do anything, and then they'll go and play football with a dog and duck on a Saturday, and you know, when, you know, there's an old saying, and you know, and some clubs have this mentality: win or lose on the booze.
Yeah,
you know, which for me, you know, that's totally a car crash. You're not going to achieve anything with that mindset, right? Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that we've got players here that are on the booze. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is to be consistent and to be at the top of your game. Every game you go into, it doesn't matter who the opposition is, where they are in the league table, where they're sitting. You know, you've got to be up for the fight, and you've got to be up to be able to, you know, be on top of your game so that you can consistently pick the points up, and you kind of get in it's like a train. You know, you're trying to get in a good run at things, and it then goes like a well-oiled machine, and everybody's got to have the same mindset. But to do that, you've got to finish a game of football when you finish a game of football, and you've got to 100% make sure you're recovering right. And recovery, you know, is that, you know, you go in an ice bath, you know, you get yourself sorted out, you get all the lactic acid out of your body, and you know, and then so you're steady on what you do, and then as another day goes on, you start to mentally and physically prepare for your next game. Now, we've got players at this club. I'm not throwing anybody under a bus. I'm being straight. You know, I have to question, what do they do when they're away from the club? Because we're semi-professional, right? You can't always train. If you do try to train twice a week and play games, you'll never get a full complement. I mean, on Saturday, I had players, for whatever reason, miss training on Wednesday night for whatever reason, right? Now, I'm not saying they haven't got a valid reason, right? I mean, one player in particular probably did have a valid reason, you know, because it was something to do with work. So it was a valid reason. But really, I've got to look at myself in some respects, because when it comes to Saturday, should I have left him on the bench and say, well, you haven't trained? But when you look at the situation without giving anything away, he might be blinking one of your main players who's banging the goals in for you.
Yeah.
But then what happens then is you put him on the bench. They look at that as a punishment, and before you know where you are, you've got a bit of a rocky road, because you're thinking, he's a right fucker. You know what I mean? He's fucking, I'm working, I'm doing my best, and then he's put me on the bench, and before you know where you are, they're going into games with wrong mindset.
Yeah.
So, but my point is with that.
But you can't be seen to be rolling over for these players, can you?
No, but hang on, let me just say, it's not rolling over for players, but in terms of that, what they should be doing, and this is exactly because you've got to realise we're not a pro club, and people do have work commitments, and people do have, you know, situations where they can't make training. I fully understand that, but what they're doing, what are they doing? If you miss training, what are they doing to get that time back? In fact, doing it away from us. They don't need us to be, as a collective, to train.
Yeah,
is my point.
To be ready for the next game.
Correct. You should do things on their own. I mean, I'm not being funny, and I know it can be a laughing stock, but I looked at some of my players yesterday, and I've looked at them over the last couple of weeks, some of them, and I'm tapping them on the belly.
Yeah,
I'm going like that. And they think it's a laugh, but it's not a laugh. I'm thinking, what the fuck are you like? Michelin, man.
Yeah, we're still in a season.
We're still in a season. Why are you like you are? You're letting your body go. Why are you your body like your body is? How come you've got a pouch there? Why have you got a pouch? There's something not right. Now, you can't blame. You know, even if you had them here and you tried to run them out and run them, that'd be a problem, because I heard a comment in the changing room yesterday which I thought were nonsensical. One player turned around and went, you know, and I tell you, when I listen to some of the things that come out in this changing room at times, I have to just bite my tongue, because I just think, are you freaking for real? We've trained on a Wednesday night. The coaches have took them in a session on Bacup Borough. And one player turned around and said, we're knackered when we were knackered when we got into this game today because we did too much running on a Wednesday night. Well, like, what the freaking hell? So you've got Thursday, Friday, and you're into game Saturday, and you've done too much running. And I thought, what an absolute load of rubbish. What's that? Where's that come from? And this is what I'm trying to get at in the overall picture. Is the mindset, is the mentality. Is the mentality. And they haven't got the winning. And when I'm talking about the winning, yeah, they can lift themselves. They can go through a brick wall for you for a one-off game, but they can't keep to that level for the next game. And I've got facts here where he'll tell you that. They can't do it. And the reason why they can't do it is because they're not conditioning themselves to do it. They're not hungry enough. They're not desired enough. Because they're coming out with, you know, you'll get people that will be dedicated and will go to the gym. And when they go to the gym, some will do the right things, what they should be doing, and some will do totally the wrong things, right? Totally the wrong things. But at least they're doing something. I mean, for me, if you've missed training or you want to get somewhere, the only thing you should be doing in a gym is get on a blinking treadmill. You don't need to be punching out. You need to be ticking over and just vary your treadmill. You know, treadmills are brilliant because you're running. You get your earpiece in, you play music through your ear, right? And you're blinking away you go, and then you get a
sauna or something like that.
Exactly, but how many do that, and how many prepare right? And this is my point. All this goes into the fact of trying to win a league or get promotion. It's a total different mindset. And then you've got the players that turn up, right? And they're carrying something. I mean, I'm not being funny. Yesterday, and I don't go around with my eyes shut, but yesterday, the busiest room was not the changing room, it was the physio room. And the biggest, and the person that worked the hardest yesterday and hiding the most of the players on the pitch was Miguel.
Yeah.
And that tells you something. I'm thinking, well, how come nobody's told me? The only person I knew that had a problem, and we kept in contact and we spoke on Friday night, was Joy Fallon. Now, I should have been a bit stronger with Joy. You know what? Because Joy were open, he were honest. He said it's getting better by the day, but he wanted to be involved. So I basically said to him, and he actually did say to me as well, and this were in the conversation on Friday, he actually did say to me, Anna's, which is his partner, I think it was his dad, and by the way, if they're listening, happy birthday to his dad. I think it was his 60th birthday, and it was up in Newcastle. So I actually did say to him on the Friday, and this isn't like, this is just so that I can give other people game time. I basically said, Joy, listen, I can leave you out the squad. Just get yourself up to Newcastle and have the day off. You know, I mean, I know we want to do well, but there's a bigger fish to fry out there. So have the day off. I actually gave him that chance, but he said to me, no, like toss that off. I want to be involved. So he wanted to be involved. Now everybody knows their own body. I can only have conversations and be guided by what's being said to me. Now, in hindsight, I maybe should have been cruel to be kind and left him out, you know, probably. But and I could have easily done, because this is another situation that I'm concerned about at the minute, is that I've got to manage these players. You can't turn it on and turn it off like a tap. It can't happen. So we need continuity as much as we can going into that final. We have to have continuity. Now, if I start ripping the arse out of the team, right, I'm in some respects not doing valuable players any favours, because, as I've just said, you can't turn it on and turn it off like a tap. It doesn't happen that in football. You've got to be, continuity is massive. But equally, so if I start ripping, you know, and saying, right, okay, we'll start with all the fringe players for the next few games, and then we go into the final and pick the team for the final, and go back to the players, or majority of the players that have got us there and done well in the big games, and then they fall flat on the day, on the night. What do you think they're going to say? They're going to turn around and say, well, you haven't done us any favours because we've not been playing any game time. We've been freaking messed about. We need to be playing. So you've got a juggling act. I get that. I get the need to be playing. So, but equally, other players need to be getting themselves up. And I'm not saying up to the level so they get picked in the final, but they need to be available and up to the level to be available to come under scrutiny and come into contention for the final. Yeah. So it's one of them balances. And then the other thing you've got, I check the bookings, because this is another part of what you have to do. And Brady's on eight bookings. So he's walking a tightrope. And the last thing we want, like a hole in the head, is for Brady to be suspended for the cup final. So obviously we've got to tread carefully with Brady. But on Saturday we had Gareth Wade, who were ill, and has been ill now for the last few days. He's not shaking it off, and he's a person that really doesn't get ill. But then you've got to ask yourself a question: if he's in that situation, and obviously you know his age situation in terms of, is it because his body's telling him you're doing too much? You know,
possibly.
You know, which it could be. So you've all these are things as you guys on the outside, you just think it's about picking a team, and why have they not turned up? Why is he not giving him a chance? And let's start with him. But you've got to remember that up to yesterday's game, the last few matches, we've actually, performance-wise, haven't played bad. We've been playing well.
Yeah.
Performance-wise,
I disagree with that, because I thought the first half at Exton last week was horrible, and same again yesterday.
Yeah, but in all due respect to you, Steve, you'll say that because we've gone 2 goals down, and I've known you long enough to know how negative you are. You're one of them. It weren't at all. It weren't at all. We got off to a bad start in first minute, less than a minute, and from that, obviously, they had their noses in front. They're a team that's in the playoffs. There's things to play for, and we're chasing a game. So when you're chasing a game, the mindset changes completely. You're chasing a game, so everything goes out the window. So you know, when we're chasing a game, different things, you have to make different decisions, right? But I've known you in the past, in all fairness, and I'm not being disrespectful, but you've just hit the nail there. And I've had this conversation with you before. You're the type of guy that in the blinking, and people who say stuff on comms have good memories, because I've known you turn around and we've had this conversation, and I've said to you, how can you turn around and say, right, going into the 80th minute, how can you turn around and say, right, when you say on comms, the lads have done well today, you know, they're in this game, they're doing well, and then there's a car crash between 80th minute and 90th minute, and then you're walking away, and your conversation is, dog shit, fucking absolute rubbish. They need to look at themselves. They need to hang on. That's not what should be said. You've just said up to the 80th minute, they're in the game, they're playing well, right? And then in the last 10 minutes, there's been a car crash. So only talk about the negativity of the last 10 minutes, and then find a reason why that last 10 minutes has happened. Yeah. Don't start trying to pull the first 80 minutes down. What you've already said on comms, the lads are doing well. And then your mindset goes all over. It's scattered all over the place because of the last 10 minutes.
But you've got to be disappointed. You've got to be disappointed with the last couple of performances, though.
What do you mean performance against 90 minutes? What do you mean? If we're talking individual or collective.
Well, let's take yesterday, for instance, then.
Well, yeah, we haven't got on about yesterday. I'll talk about yesterday in a minute. I'm talking about previous to yesterday, and this is a conversation like me and Joy had on Friday night. Previous to yesterday, going back, just look at the leagues. I mean, we've had good results against Droylsden, the bigger teams. We've played Padiham, we've played Radcliffe. The lads, irrespective of the league, the games, and they've done well in them games and in everything we've played. Yeah, there's been parts in the game where we've set off bad or we've conceded early doors or whatever, right? But the simple fact of the matter is, we've clawed our way back, and that's basically everybody doing their jobs to try and claw the way back. Yesterday, we didn't claw the way back. Yesterday, I will talk about yesterday in a minute. I'm building up to that, right? Now, the point I'm trying to make to you is that you can't, and too many supporters are like this. I'm not saying our supporters, but I see it all the time. But I've even had it with yourself. You can't. In a game of football, you're not going to win every single game, right? I've said that to you loads of times, even last season, the season before. It's never going to happen. You can't just start 1 minute you're putting them on a pedestal, and then next minute you're absolutely fucking slaughtering them. That's shit. You've got to be constructive and know where it's fucking coming from. You've got to peel it all back and have a look, and then make decisions where why is this situation happening? That's our job, not you. You on comms, you just do the comms and say what's in front of you. And that's the only way that I can describe it. 2 weeks ago, you're in the changing room, you're on an eye. Whoa, we'll get on.
I always will give credit where credit's due.
But hang on.
But I won't give credit where credit isn't due.
Well, exactly, but we haven't got on to yesterday's game. We're talking about yesterday's game. I mean, you've got to understand what goes on and what's going on. And I'm coming to that. We've said that where this team, hang on, forget that. We'll come to the league table in a minute. We'll come to that. It's all here. You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead.
I just want to make sure we cover.
Yeah, but hang on, we're covering everything. There's nothing won't get covered. It's all right. You going home and saying, look at this league table and look at that. I've already done it. I've got facts here.
Doesn't lie.
I've got facts. Well, it doesn't lie. But what I'm trying to tell you is, we're talking. We haven't got to where you want to get to. 1 minute, you've asked me my question, and I said backtrack, and you've butted in, right? Backtrack. I said exactly. These players, the last 2 years, have had a challenge. It was their own challenge. We're talking about their challenge. Right? We're not talking about yesterday. We're talking about their own challenge, which was try to get promotion. And I've just started to talk about getting promotion is a different mindset. And I've started to talk about the mindsets and why there's a different mindset. And we've got players in the team and the club that don't have that mindset. And that's why they're failing.
Yeah.
Right? So we haven't got to that part, what you're trying to jump in and show a league table and look at this and look at that. You can look at half of them. You can look at half of them teams in there. We'll talk about the league table in a minute. You can look at half of them teams in there and ask yourself what they've done the last few years, right? Have they won trophies? Are they on the blinking history books? Are they in the blinking honours list? Have they got to finals? No, they haven't, right? And just because the league table might show where they finish or whatever, and they might finish up higher than us, might be happy days. But come the end of the season, are they in the honours list? You don't get anything. You don't get anything for finishing in the honours list, for finishing just under the playoffs. You don't even get anything if you're in the playoffs, but you don't make the final. You get nothing. You're not even in the honours list. So it's bunkum. Half of that's bunkum. What you're trying to show me, all you're trying to do is riddle them have a go at them and say, look at the league table. I'm the one who will have a go at them. I'm the one who will tell you the answer. I'm the one who will criticise. You just stick to your cons. And that's why we have this show. And I'll tell you the truth. And that's why I've got to where I've got to. Because they haven't got the mindset to be able to take us to the final, up to get promotion. That's what I've just talked about. Now we'll talk about what I said when I went in the changing room yesterday. Now let's be honest. I've been in thousands, not hundreds, thousands of changing rooms. I've been in different generations of players. I've not just been in the game 2 minutes. Right? And the first thing I said when I went in yesterday, the very first thing I said to them, here we are, we're coming into April, business end of the season. Most teams now that have got nothing to play for, right? It's just a case of seeing the season out with most teams.
Yeah.
Right? But we have something to play for. You guys in here, you're playing for, you're not going to make the playoffs. We know that. That will wrote off. In fact, if I've got to be truthful, and you know what I said to you, but I'm never turning it around to the players. I told Ryu before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you forget about the freaking playoffs. This group ain't going to get us promotion. I'll tell you that now. I'd actually told you that.
That was true. What you did tell me before Christmas.
Since you don't get giddy, these will never get you in playoffs because I know the players and I know the mentality. Some of them, not all of them.
No.
So I know. I've seen it. They failed where it matters. Right? They failed. Whichever which way you look at it, they failed because they've set their own targets and failed on it.
Yeah.
Now then, this is my point now. So I've gone in the changing room yesterday and I've said it, right? Because I know it's people just, this is the mentality. And I'm not making excuses for these guys, right? I'm being factual here. I know these players like the back of my hand. And I know in their mindset, they'll be thinking, we've nothing to play for now. We're just seeing the season out. We'll wait till we get to Southport and then we'll hopefully go to Southport. We'll put another big performance in and we'll come back home with a Lancashire trophy.
And all will be forgotten.
And all will be forgotten, yeah. Let me tell you, it doesn't work that way. And this is the point what I was trying to make before the game. It does not work that way, right? And that's why I said you've all got something to play for. Now, this is the mentality, and this is the mentality of it, even on the conversation I had with on Friday night. It never works the way you want it to work. So as a manager, you automatically think there's no reason why we should not be putting these to the sword. Right? If we start well, put these to the sword. Apparently, I mean, I haven't looked too deeply into Steeton, but apparently it came to my attention they've conceded early in the last couple of games they've played. Like us or whatever, I don't know. It just got brought to my attention. But the mentality was that hopefully we'll put these to the sword in the first 45 minutes, right? And then the second 45 minutes gives me ample time to give the likes of Ole, the likes of Joel, the likes of Ryan Siddall, the likes of Jack, and the likes of Brad Hancock more minutes, a lot more minutes, because we've put them to the sword, right? And the lads that's put them to the sword has been in the main the lads that's beat Radcliffe, the lads that's beat Uxton, and the lads that's beat Padiham. But I can take them off. So they're still getting the game time. They're still doing the business, right? But we can change it. But the problem is, as I said in my team talk before the game, the issue is if you're chasing the game, it creates a more problem because it puts a difficult slant on things because I'm trying to get us back in the game and I've got to you know, it's not a case of like just making the changes for the sake of making the changes, so players get, so people can get you know, can get game time. Now, in terms of Ollie, let's talk Ollie here, right? Because people, and I can hear it now, he scores 2 goals when he comes off the bench last week, right? Maybe he'll start this week. Well, maybe, yeah, that's a good point. He may be. But after Rob, I know what Ollie's doing. I'm not stupid. But if something happens to Blinking, you know, God forbid, if something happened to, and I'm using Kyle Siddall, because let's be honest, when I go break this all down, Kyle Siddall is our, probably where things are going this season, our most important player.
I agree.
Right? So if something happened to Kyle Siddall, and I keep giving Ollie minutes, regular minutes, I don't just lose Kyle, I lose Blinking Ollie as well. And then we are fucked. And that's swearing, I'm sorry, Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So I've got to manage situations. So my point being, obviously, right, when we get, and also we've got a double header this week where you've got, and I've got to think of that. We haven't been playing many midweek games, but this week we are playing midweek games. So we've, in theory, if you look at it, we've got 3 games in 7 days.
Yeah.
So again, I've got to manage them. You can't just look at, oh, we've only got Saturday and then we're off till next Saturday. We've actually this week got 3 games in 7 days. On a squad that I've just said to you, half of them were in the physio room. So it becomes an issue. But the issue is as well, these players who are in the physio room, and I even said this at half time, are stealing a position.
Yeah.
Because they're not being honest.
Yeah.
They're not telling me I can live with everybody if they want to play with an injury. But the first thing I'll turn around and say, you've got to be able to uphold your roles and responsibility playing with that injury. If you can't uphold your roles and responsibility, right, you're not in. You come out.
Well, they're letting themselves down, but also they're letting you down because you've selected them.
Correct.
And really, they should be chomping at the bit, trying to prove themselves that they're worthy of having a place in that final.
Exactly. So now, so now we're getting into it now. So now let's start with, and I'm going to start with the captain. I love him to bits, but he's the one that should be leading by example, and he's the one that should be turning around. Now, I know for a fact that he's had an issue for the last 3 weeks since we played on, the first time we played on 3G before the Uxton game. He's had a problem anyway. But it seems, but nobody's telling me, he's gone from one problem to another problem. So yesterday he's on the pitch. He hasn't told me anything. He's not said nothing to me, right? To the point, and somebody said it changed in force change. There was no force change. I'd made my mind up. I was so pissed off with him yesterday that I went to Nigel at one point and said, how long's on this clock now? Right? And at this point, right, he said 7 minutes. If he'd have said any longer than 7 minutes, he would get in the hook.
Yeah.
But I let it ride till half time. And the reason why I was peed off with him, because I'm not being funny, this was one of the reasons he got booked, right? He's obviously struggling somewhere and he's not opening up to me and being honest. He's obviously struggling. He was one of them that wrote physio bed. When I've come in, I'm caught him on the physio bed. He stood in the middle of the pitch. He never come out. He moved that much sideways and forward that I'm not being funny. The bloody floodlights at this corner would have marked him.
Yeah.
Right? What good's that?
No.
And the next thing, so he's not even getting up. He's not even getting up. He's the player. If anybody should be getting up supporting Toby, it's him. But he's not getting anywhere near. And let me talk to you about the blinking booking, right? He deserved everything. Listen, the one thing about Steeton, we're criticising here, I'm coming in, right? Somebody said in the changing room at full time, I think it was Callum Hewitt. And Callum Hewitt said, there's nothing to play for. Callum, you're wrong. They had everything to play for because mathematically they were down. They were still, Route 1 Rovers, if you study that league table, could still pip them. This is a team, and this is why I say these lads, right? These lads have let themselves down. This is a team who's been at the bottom of the league, moved down there for most of the season, that's took bloody 4 points out of us, which pisses me right off.
Yeah.
They're on a minus 23 goal difference. We were blinking absolutely battering them at Steeton. And because of blasé play, and because one player in particular, then near the end of the game, started crying at the referee.
Yeah.
Well, he starts crying at the referee, or somebody starts crying at him. He's called me names! He's called me names! Grow up. This is what we're dealing with. Grow a pair of balls. For God's sake.
The entire game.
He then settled it, and then he's turning around while they're blinking, while the referee's sorting all the bloody rigmarole out because he's called him a name, right? Which spoilt the game. He's then turning around to his captain and saying, well, at least while this all delay's going on, the blinking motorway will be clear. What sort of blinking mentality is that? And they're lining up for a corner, so eventually when they take the corner, we're not set, and then they freaking scored the equaliser off the corner. It was madness, and this is what I'm saying about these players, the mentality.
Yeah. But as you said, 4 points this season.
4 points
off the side, just above the drop zone.
Exactly. Minus 23 goal difference. Absolute ridiculous. They should have been put to the side. But this is my point, what I've been building up to.
Yeah.
When I started at the beginning. And that's why I said to you at Christmas, this team won't win. These lot won't win the blinking. We won't get in the playoffs. Right, forget it.
Well, I can tell, Brent, that you're as pissed off as anybody. Nobody is as pissed off as you.
100%, I'm pissed off, and I had to bite my tongue in that changing room yesterday because something happened. This is another thing, right? This is another thing. What I needed to find something out before I started opening my mouth. Listen, at the minute, gone as the day that I've got my whole finger on the pulse.
Yeah,
I used to do the team. I used to obviously do the training, coaching, whatever, and the fitness and everything. Obviously, I've released that, and I give people the Reds. Now, I'm not here knocking the coaching at all. I mean, I've praised the coaches, but I did say it, and I said it on that podcast that were out, what got released last week. I touched on it actually at one point. The issue is that coaches fill players with too much information.
Yeah.
And even when I said that on that rewind, on that I got trials once, both of them turned round when I said that and agreed.
Yeah, Gareth and Jordan both agreed, and they were not in the Reds. Yeah,
both agreed, and that's what happens. Something happened yesterday, what I couldn't just get my head round, and the reason I couldn't get my head round, I needed to do my due diligence after the game. And that's why I didn't say a lot in full time. I just basically said it was a shit show. You've let yourselves down. I've nothing else to say. I'll collect my thoughts and I'll relay things, starting with today on the Rewind show and go as the week progresses. And one of the things I did, and again, I come back to this, we've had an identity for the last few years. We've worked hard on this identity. And one of the things you've got to do with players is simplify it as much as possible. Because footballers, I'm sorry, but they're not, and I'm not just talking this group we've got, I'm talking previous groups I've had. Unless they've been, a lot of them are not the brightest buttons in the box.
Yeah. Right?
And I remember, God rest his soul, Walter Joyce used to tell me, Brent, with the younger lads, there's no grey areas. It's either physically, it's either black or it's white. There can't be any grey areas, right? And I always remember him used to saying that. Now, there was something happening yesterday, and I couldn't get my head around it. And as I'm going across to the changing rooms to name the team and address the team, I got approached and asked a question. And the question, I just went with the flow. I said, as long as they know how to possession, because in my opinion, it doesn't matter what position you're playing. If a team is playing with a front three, in my opinion, that front three should interchange and move about and to try and create
communicating with one another.
Yeah, communicating with one another and create the space, right? But once it breaks down and once somebody cheats on them and doesn't follow them or track them in, then obviously the players in question must also know what their responsibility is if we lose the ball.
Yeah.
That is important, right? So I kind of went with the flow. But as the game's going on, there was one thing that were happening and happening too often for me. I couldn't get my head around it because the talisman for us this season, and especially on Bay Cup is quite a big pitch. So what did I say on last week's show? We are a team that thrive on space.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're about, space. We're not a battling side as such.
No.
We haven't got enough players in the team that are battlers, so they need space. What do you do? What's the first thing you would do on a big pitch to create the space?
Well, you'd stretch, wouldn't you? You'd get the ball out to wide areas and hit the channels with the ball.
100%. So here we go now. So I can't get my head round whether an instruction has been given to a player or players and they've not understood it because it's not been given to them in layman's terms.
Yeah.
And they've not understood it, and players being players won't turn around and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
Yeah,
right?
Just nod.
They just nod and go with the flow. I don't know. Or whether they've understood it, but not executed it like they've misunderstood it, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. And I'm not trying to blame the coaches here, and I'm not trying to blame the player. But when I make my due diligence after and I speak to the player in question, and I say, I'm a bit lost because he said something in the changing room at post-match. He brought something up. And he weren't talking to me or addressing me. He was talking to one of the coaches. And he brought something up and it didn't kind of ring true. So I needed to know. So the first thing I did, I kind of had a 5-minute meeting with two of my coaches and tried to get a feeling of what they worked on the way. I was doing some work in here. Right, what I had to do, what important work. So I didn't really fully watch all the session. So I needed to get to know what they were working on the session. But then after that, I rang the player in question up, and I said, "Just answer me a question here. Where were you told to play on? What were your instructions on Saturday?" And he answered what he believed to be his instructions. And his instructions were that he'd to be more up alongside Toby. Now, that's not stretching.
No.
Now, I'm not saying that that's what was said to him. Let me get one thing straight here. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when I speak to my coaches, they're not saying that was said. But when I speak to the player, he's saying that was said. Now, this is where I'm trying to say it's too much information getting freaking mixed up because they're not understanding. And this is where I'm coming from now. And I don't understand why, if something's not broken, why would you try to mend it? Because I'm not being funny. Our attacking all season has come when we have width, which creates space.
Yeah.
Width creates space and pulls people out. So then it stops there being that fighting situation in centre of goal.
Mm.
But if you analyse, which you will have done, a lot of yesterday's game, it would seem to be all congested in the middle.
Yeah, which suited Steeton down to the ground.
Correct. 100%.
So they went into that game just to fight and battle for every ball.
Correct, and that's what they were doing. And the thing were, that's what they did. That's what they were good at. I've got to give Steeton, listen, every time we've come up against a team where they've absolutely rolled the sleeves up and thought, we have to work our socks off against these. We've got to be in their faces. We've got to stop them. We don't let them get time on the ball. We rat them. We do anything within your power, right? You've got to do it. And to be fair to Steeton yesterday, that's what they did. They were fighting. Listen, the best thing I can describe is this. You've got, and I say this, if there's people out on the streets, which there's loads of them, that've got no money, they need to survive. What do? You know, unfortunately, they turn to crime because they've got to survive. They've got to eat. That's what they do. They've got to survive. If you look at animals, you know, if you let a bloody fox go, well, a fox has got to survive. So it'll go and raid into your chicken pen and get the chickens. It shouldn't be in there, but it is in there because it's got to survive. If you're a blinking mongrel dog and you're getting kicked around your house and you're not getting looked after, that mongrel dog, when it goes, if it's not getting any loving, it gets let out the door and it'll go and bite somebody. So you look at that, Steeton are fighting for their lives because they weren't mathematically certain of blinking staying in this league. So at the end of the day, they're fighting, scrapping, and I've got to give them every credit. Right? They're fighting, scrapping, spitting, doing anything. And that's why our fans are getting frustrated because there were things going on. I'm not going to get on about the referee. It's pointless, right? But there were things going on and there were stoppings trying to gain advantage and everything else because they're fighting for their lives.
But as you said, though, Brent, both sides have still got a lot to play for.
Yeah, but the problem is, our lads, this is the mentality again of our lads. Oh, man, I'm not up for this fight. I don't want to be up for this fight. Because they're thinking three steps. If I go into ban, I've seen it even how that goal came. And one player in particular, I'm not going to throw him under the bus, the breakdown of that first goal, that first goal, the only goal, the breakdown started virtually on the halfway line. Not round the 18-yard box. It started on the halfway line. And it started because one player in particular, who I've praised highly on this show before today and stood by him, he kind of like, we're going to go to the ball and get himself into a confrontation, but he saw another movement from one of our players, or it seemed to be like this, that he were moving to the ball, so he stepped off and thought, pass responsibility. Yeah. But the thing were, the other one stepped off. So neither of them were fishing and mending nets. They did nothing. So it ended up, it broke on us.
And then it just became a comedy of errors.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, for frig's sake, freaking compete. It's like the Gervin situation. Let's go back to the Gervin situation. Gervin's waited. If he'd have headed the ball, when that ball's up in the air, if he'd have gone up and headed it and just helped it on a little bit, right, and took it away from where it were, right, the picture would have all changed, right? But there was a snowball certainty. They were attacking every ball, right? Because they needed to. They weren't standing off and waiting for things to drop. They were going and attacking it. Every situation they were attacking. In the Gervin situation, he's waited for the blinking ball to come down. While he's waited, he sees the player comes in because he's attacking it. So he's then obviously caught him then with his blinking elbow because he's like thinking, I'm going to lose this. This is my point. You know, you've got to compete. You've got to be on the front foot. And we've allowed ourselves in that game yesterday. We allowed ourselves from a reasonable start, probably for 7 minutes, we allowed ourselves to become into a battle situation where we should never have got in a battle situation. What should have been happening, right? We've got the ball, move it quickly so they couldn't get near us. They'd be diving into nothing. Just move the ball. But every time you dwelled on the ball, they were going to be at you. You know, there were times when players were just in a situation where they're dwelling and looking for that perfect pass. Well, they hadn't a chance to dwell on it. They were getting the pocket pinched.
It was very similar to the first half against Exton because, you know, you said pedestrian. And it was pedestrian. And our, you know, we're very good at moving the ball quick. And when we move it quick and stretch them, that's when we get the fruits of our labour.
Yeah. Well, it's no. Listen, I've got it here. Right. So we go today. So listen to this. So we have a terrific 3-0 win at Exton. Terrific. The game after, we go to Daisy Hill. This is the mindset, what I'm telling you. We go to Daisy Hill, probably 1 or 2 forced changes in that game. But we go to Daisy Hill, right, and we can beat at Daisy Hill.
Yeah.
3-0, I think it were. No, sorry, no, it weren't 3-0, but we got beat. It was 3-0 at Exton, sorry. It was 3-0 at Exton, but the game following, right, it's Daisy Hill away, and we lose.
Yeah.
Right? And never turned up. So we rested on our laurels from the previous game. This is what I'm saying about the mentality.
Yeah.
Right? We then do Blackpool. Let's have a look at Blackpool. They've done the double up. These are teams that, so Steeton, this is what I'm saying about mentality. You've got to remember what I'm saying about mentality. Stop putting these players on a pedestal, right? Because as much as we want to...
Hey, I don't put them on a pedestal.
But supporters do, and so does... I mean, Deborah, I've even said to Deborah at times, stop putting these players on a pedestal. They think they've bloody done everything, and they've done nothing. They've got to a cup final. They've got a tough nut to crack in Southport, right? They're capable of doing it. I'm not saying they're not capable of doing it, right? They're capable. But the trouble is, they come strutting in here thinking the bee's knees. And
you think, Brent, that the last couple of seasons, you know, our amazing form in the cups has kind of just ironed over the cracks?
I don't think it's ironed over the cracks, because when Dave Felgate, I'm just saying this, when Dave Felgate and the first couple of seasons we started playing how we're playing, we're keeping clean sheets.
Yeah.
We weren't conceding. Our returner, listen. This is nothing to do with our keeper, by the way, when I start quoting our returner. Our returner in goal, right, and the way we set up and the way we were playing and the way that we flowered out and the way that we utilised it, wasn't it? It was well protected. The way that when we won the ball and flowered out, we had so much pace and power, and we were switching play. I mean, this is where Michael Gervin comes in. I've told you, when Michael Gervin's on it, we're a different ball game. If Michael Gervin's not on it, we're a looking bag of shit, right? I'm sorry, but that's a fact, right? Yeah. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is, right, Gervin get the ball, we'd be switching play, we'd be getting in, and there'd be runners everywhere, and people couldn't contain us, right? And then immediately brought down, we get back and get narrow and get in our shape. I've seen, probably year 3, right, I've seen a kind of slight difference in terms of we're not as compact. So in other words, when you think about this, if we tell our 7 and 11 to drop in on with a midfield, narrow and tight, right? Narrow and tight, how many men have we got in midfield at that point?
Well, at that point, we got 6, haven't we?
No, we've got 5. Right, we've got 5 in midfield, narrow and tight.
We've got 3.
And then you've got a back 4, narrow, tight, right? So we're solid. Gradually, I've seen that gap open slightly because we're not where we should be. So it's all about freaking distances and where you are. So all of a sudden, I've seen from a situation where we're keeping clean sheets, I've seen gaps in appearing where when we lose the ball or give one wrong pass, they can punish us because we're not as solid, whereas before we were solid.
We're regrouping quicker in the past.
Yeah, and the distances are where they should be. Now, my next point is as well, and again, this isn't having a go at anybody, but it's a fact. It's all right when we've always had a situation, it doesn't matter, and I've always said it on this show, it doesn't matter how the opposition line up. These players always know what their roles and responsibilities are. So in terms of this, it just comes from the bench and saying they're playing with 3 at the back today, they're playing with wing backs. The lads who know who they're marking in a wing back situation know. They know the drill. All of a sudden, somebody has given us kind of a license, and I've had this conversation, a license to pass on to fullbacks. No, because I've told you, they're not thinking straight. And the reason why they're not thinking straight, if you let them pass on to a fullback, that's fine.
They'll let you do it all day long.
Yeah, but listen to me. They pass on to a fullback. So the man that's passed on to a fullback now, the player, is higher. He's at wrong side of the ball. He's higher up the pitch. So he's out the game.
Yeah.
If the opposition are playing with clever strikers, a clever striker, there's different ways people can play with strikers up front. They can play 3 up front, which means it can be 2 wide players, 1 down the middle. So if you look at that situation in itself, the 2 wide players, 1 down the middle, the bloody fullback's got the wide player.
Yeah.
And the other fullback's got the wide player. And the 2 centre-backs have got the 1 down the middle. So what I'm saying is, so how the blinking, where's the mentality of trying to let a blinking a 7 or 11 pass his man on to a fullback? Because it's a car crash waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And especially, right, this is what I'm trying to say, especially, there's no room for error. Because if there's a problem, right, and somebody slips or gets done, there's no cover. Whereas the way that I kind of set them up and want them to be, there's always 2 spare men in the right area. Because what happens is, if the 2 wide players, right, are on the fullbacks, then technically, we've got, if the 2 wide players go on to the fullbacks, and our 7 and 11 are picking the men up that they should do, then all of a sudden, we've got centre-half spare.
Yeah.
We've always got somebody spare on the back line.
Which automatically makes us stronger at the back. And hence why Harry Turner had 13 or 14 clean sheets in one season.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. So somehow, somebody, somewhere is not thinking straight, because that situation's great for the 7 and 11. They think, well, happy days, I don't have to track all the way back in there. But then we start conceding because there's mistakes being made.
Yeah.
And you were finding that they're not picking up there. Obviously, they've got clever strikers. If they've got numbnut strikers, it doesn't matter.
But if you're Mason Fallon and you're Ben Langley, you're working overtime.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why, and I keep saying this, if it's not broken, why try to mend it? There's nothing wrong with how we're executing things, but somewhere along the line in translation, somebody's getting mixed up, because yesterday on our pitch, we never created nothing. So then I've got to strip it back and say, why are we not creating anything? It's that you're not telling me over a 90-minute period we've constantly give the ball away, because I'm not having that. We haven't constantly give the ball away. Yeah, we've given it away at certain instances in the game, but we haven't constantly give the ball away, right?
So why to get a pattern of play together?
Yeah, because we haven't.
No momentum at all, was there?
We haven't made the pitch big. The pitch weren't big yesterday. It weren't big, so it was crammed. So we created nothing. Think about it logically. We created nothing because there were nowhere to go, because they shut off. All our players are condensed in an area going towards goal. So obviously it was difficult to get that half a yard to create a bit of space to do the magic.
Yeah.
So, but if we break, and this is another point when I make, if you turn around if you go and stand, if I'm a winger now, or I'm playing, or not a winger, I can be an inside forward. It doesn't matter. But if I'm an inside forward, my area is in the final third of the pitch. So as an inside forward, if I keep inside, right, the fullback who's marking me will automatically stay on my line. Where will he be? He will be inside as well.
Right.
So
which allows space down the outside.
Which allows space down the outside. But we don't want space down the outside in theory. We want space more on the inside so that Toby can do his bloody stutty stuff, so that the number 10, whoever's playing number 10, Gervin, if it's Gervin, can get in forward and break, and he can strut his stuff, you know, and then the player on the opposite side can come into them gaps and do the stuff. This is what we're always a threat with. But all of a sudden, we've got to a situation where we're stalemated and there's nobody out wide. Now, if that player, whether it's 7 or 11, goes and stands, let's just hypothetically talk about this, and stands at the blinking, let's say, just near the, listen, this probably wouldn't happen, but it's too wide. But I'm just using a point here. Went and stood, right, near the blinking arc of the blinking corner flag, right, and stood there, pulled wide. Where do you think their fullback's going to be? Is he going to be tucked right in and allow them to freaking spray a ball out to me, for me to run at Adam and run into the box at him? Or is that fullback going to adjust his body position and he's going to come out wider?
You're going to drag him out, aren't you?
He's going to drag him out. So if he drags him out, what does that create?
Space.
100%.
But what you're talking, it's not rocket science. And when we do it, and we do it properly, it's effective.
Massively. But somewhere along the line, something's getting dragged down in transition, and it's whether something's been said and they're not understanding it, and they're thinking it means this, or I don't know what it is. But whatever happened yesterday should never have happened. It was just ridiculous. And that's why at full time, I didn't want to go into that changing room lambasting people and freaking going, talking about what I'm talking about now, because I needed to understand, because I wasn't out there seeing what they were working on and how they were working. I don't know, but whatever it were, and I'm not saying, listen, this isn't me. I'm not here having a go at whether it's the coaches or having a go at the players. All I'm saying, we've got a product here that for several seasons, which has got a success on terms, we failed in the league situation, but that is, these players, unless they change the mindset, will always fail on that because they've got the wrong mindset. Some players have the right mindset. Unfortunately, you can't go through a season where you want to be getting promotion with half a team with the right mindset and half a team with the wrong mindset. And when I say wrong mindset, it's one of them is, and I know everybody's going to put food on the table, but why would you work on a Saturday morning? This is my point, right? Why would you work Saturday morning when Saturday's football day, right? You'd lie in bed till whatever time. You'd be nice and relaxed. You might go out for a brisk walk somewhere just to get the blinking cobwebs off, right? Yeah. And then you get yourself to football, and then you'll be at football fully focused and do an hour and a half football.
There are players in our side, and I know because I was chatting to someone last week. They've had a routine religiously for the last 4 years. And that routine is exactly what you say. They wake up, they have breakfast, they go for a walk, they don't talk to the partners. But it's mechanical.
Correct.
And that's what you've got to be.
You've got to change your mindset at this level or anything if you want to be a winner. You cannot do, and this is what I'm trying to say is, listen, I had a conversation about a player yesterday with Ryan Russell, right? One player, right? I'm not going to tip it. It's not right to tip. I mean, I've mentioned my captain because I needed to mention my captain because he's got to lead by example, right? And I don't believe, these last few games, he's been open and honest, right? And it's now got to the stage where, I'm the kind of manager, and this is with everybody. Don't underestimate. Every year I've thrown a curveball in because I watch what goes on. Last year at Cup Final, who'd have thought that Brad would have got in after what he'd gone through, right?
Nobody,
but he got in, right? And it's like when we were chasing the game yesterday, straight away. What did I do? I went with linking. I took people off. What's the point of doing a one? One of the strikers could have been doing absolutely nothing all the game, but it doesn't matter. I'd keep him on just for the benefit because one bit of magic might unlock something and we get back in the game. So I was just throwing a bits of cautions to the wind and just throwing people up, getting them forward and getting them up. But the thing is an old saying, you can give somebody enough rope, they'll end up hanging themselves. So when we're talking about, you could be sat there and we all have our favourites, and some people could say, and I'll come back to Wally, and especially when I name these facts here, right? Surely it's time now for Ollie to start. Yeah, it is time for Ollie to start, but in a lot of ways, I'm kind of wrapping him up in a little bit of cotton wool because I know what he's about, and I rate him highly, and I'm trying to manage him, right? I've said this to you before. I'm trying to manage, and equally, I'm trying to manage other players in the team. It's managing them, because you can't. It's easy for me to turn around now. And last week when we got to the final and think, right, that's it now. I'm going to wrap cotton wool round certain players and not play them. That defeats the object, because players need continuity, so they've got to still play. So at the end of the day, I can't really do that. It's not on to do that. And like I've just said to you at the beginning, right, this week's a different week, because all of a sudden, from only having one game and then you've got a break all week, we've now got 3 matches in 7 days.
Yeah.
So again, it's which way do you balance the team in how you're going to play and who's going to go out there and play, right? That's for me to think about, as it happens. The team that were picked yesterday, again, I come back to that. That team was the team that tore strips off handsomely off Padiham. And it was the team that tore strips off thinking, Radcliffe, right? It didn't help matters when Joy has to come off and we have to reorganise, because we lose somebody who's on really good form at the minute. Well, Joy's on good form.
And you lose a leader, don't you?
But you lose a leader in midfield, which is Callum. So we lost Callum in midfield. And again, so this is where I'm coming from now. So you put your replacements, and people can talk about whoever goes in there. But I had a conversation with Ryan Russell, and this is nothing to do, I keep saying it, I'm not having a dig at the coaches, but because I'm not. But when I'm having a conversation with Ryan, and Ryan hit the nail on the head, Ryan Russell, we're talking about this player, and I went, look, have you seen him? I said, we can't hang our hat on him, right? We can't hang our hat. Look at State, he's overweight. He's as red as a beetroot, so you know that he's putting his body under terrific linking pressure and strain. Yeah. I said, and he hasn't got a recovery run in him. I said, if he loses the ball and he's tried to influence something, we're goosed, because he hasn't. If he loses it, he hasn't got a recovery run. And Ryan's word, because he's fitness coach, and Ryan's words, not my words, but I know, and he's exactly right, was, yes, Brent, I'll have to speak to him, because to me, he's not doing enough away from where we are. And that is not just him, this is most players. Yeah. It's like they'll go, it's training on, we're training on Wednesday up at the ground, so they'll turn up for training, not a problem. They'll put it in on Wednesday, they'll turn up, not an issue. But that's it. But hang on, it needs more than that. So when you're on a Monday, what are you doing on a Monday? What are you doing on a Tuesday? What are you doing on a Thursday? What are you doing on a Friday? And ready to get ready for the game. Sat at home, driving your car, going on a golf course, going doing is
Because when you look at it, if you're looking at just a Wednesday training session, then you're doing nothing else.
Exactly. It's not right.
That's West Lancs League.
Correct.
Mentality.
So exactly. So they're not helping themselves. They're not getting themselves up to where they should be. And that's my point. So when I look at these individual players and look at them, I could lay my hat on who be in the trenches and who do it and who be like committed because he's that way inclined. But then you look at other players and you think he's not going to be doing it. If we're not training, he's not going to train. But back in the day, if you think about
carrying off the team, then aren't you?
Yeah, if you think about back in the day, like obviously our viewers, like the days are like when the likes of I'm talking Bacup now or any team, but when you likes of John Loney played here and when Simon Holden and Graham Crowther and to name a few, and people like that were at this. They weren't corner street. They weren't in the gym on every corner of the street in them days. You had to do your own. Exactly, you had to do your own fitness. But these are lads who would be out on the road. And listen, I condemn road running because I don't agree with road running. It makes you one pace, and it can do damage. Right? I don't agree with it. But what I'm saying is, back in the day, these lads would be out on the roads running. You'd see them up and down the roads. We had a player here, David Gray, who'd been at Rochdale. You see him even now. He's up and down. He'll have a bag on, freaking underneath him. He'll sweat like mad, and he'll be up and down the road. He'll be running. He'll be committed. He's committed. And the one thing that I'll go back to that rewind show that we had I had trials once. What were if those that watched it, one of the things that Ken Furphy said to me, who was then the Blackburn Rovers manager, I want 11 workers and not 11 George Bests. What does that tell you? Steeton came here, and I'm not being funny, I'm not being disrespectful to anybody at Steeton. There would be only one player I'd think of bringing into this club from that team, and that was Jake Townsend. I like him.
Number 11, he's good.
Yeah, I like him, right? I do like him, right? I've watched him over the years, and and the thing is, you know, I was giving him a bit of shit yesterday, but that's...
Oh, he's got a devil side to him, as Jake.
I like it, because he's got a devil side to him, 100%, and I like him. He's the only player I'd take, the rest of them, but do you know what they did? They made a good bake-up side when they're on it. A good bake-up side looked blinking absolute piss poor, because they one thing that they did, they worked the socks off. So that tells you everything. You can have all the ability in the world, but if you're not prepared to work, it's not going to get you anywhere.
No.
And let me go through these stats while we're on. This is another problem, right? This is another issue, right? So I've now got where we are, and this is in all competitions that's on the North West Counties website, right? So don't shoot the messenger if these are wrong, right? But I don't think they are, right? So this is where we're at. We'll start at the top. So Toby's there with 17 goals. And out of them 17 goals, there's only been a couple of them been penalties. So people can't say, yeah, but a big part of them is penalty. They're not, because I've checked it out, right? So Toby, 17 goals. The next man is Kyle with 10 goals, right? The next man, and this is where I'm coming from, which is fucking embarrassing to the others, right? When you think Ollie Hodgson has got 8 goals, and majority of them he scored. It's come from the bench. I mean, he started against Main Road and scored 1 against Main Road, and he started against Steeton away and he scored 2 at Steeton, right? But the rest of them have coming from the bench, right? So he's there with them, right? Then you go down. I'm sorry, but this is his.
That's where the problem lies.
This is where the problem's starting to lie. Alex Mellor is 5 goals. It's not good enough in the position he's in. You know, it's another season on. It's just not good enough. Everything else about Alex is all right, but he's not contributed. He's got 5, and he's played nearly every game.
Yeah.
Or almost every game. And then obviously the next one that's chipping in, that's come in there, is Joe Booth, which he showed. But he's again coming from the bench. He scored 3 goals, you know. But then you look at who's chipping in elsewhere. Midfield. This is an embarrassment now. Total embarrassment. Callum Hewitt, 2 goals. Michael Gervin, 1. Ben Thompson, 2. And one of them's a penalty. Malachi Clark, 3. Bloody Ellis Oren, who's only been here 2 minutes. Right? Ellis Oren has scored 4 goals. So Ellis Oren, from a midfield position, is freaking leading goal scorer from midfield.
Crazy.
That tells you everything. And these, when you go in the changing rooms, they're big voices. But they're not big voices and criticising their own teammates. But that's not good enough. Then they had facts. And then you look at defenders who's scored. Brad Hancock, I mean, look at, Brad's had a torrent, but he's even on the score sheet. He scored against, if you remember, an Oxford Cup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, cracking goal.
Cracking goal. But Brad's contribute. Defenders, Brady's had 2. Ben Langley's had...
Isn't that the difference, though? You know yourself, Brent, that a good side, after your midfield, you're looking at between 10 and 15 goals a season.
It's embarrassing.
From a midfielder.
Correct. It's embarrassing. So what they're doing, playing in the comfort zone. And
there's only Kyle Siddle who's really, really helping Toby Wright with the goals.
Correct. And where does he thrive?
He's caught on 2 players.
Where does he thrive? I mean, there's one thing where I have to pull him down, Cal, and he's got a bad habit of doing this. And what he will do, he always wants the ball to his feet, so he will face a defender up and take the defender's space, and ask for the ball. But I can never understand why somebody that's got the talent of Kyle would want to then receive the ball in and then try to turn, face the player up, and then do his tricks to win.
I'd want it dropping over the top.
Exactly, 100%. What he should be doing, and he should be, and again, this is what things, instead of doing exercises that whatever they did the other night, I'd be encouraging Kyle every time to go towards the defender, talk to him, and then spin quickly, and the defender knows what he's doing, and it goes over the top. So it's dropped over the top. He's attacking space. He's facing up. He's causing the aim, and then he's driving into a box.
Back it up as quick as possible.
Correct. And that is, if anything, to tweak how we play is what they should be working on a Wednesday night. Rather than, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it complicated?
Without giving anything away to people who watch it, that is when we're at our strongest.
Of course it is.
And we turn defenders.
Correct. And I mean, another one here, another stat. We go to Ashton Athletic away, but this is following a 2-0 win against Royalston. So the team listen, my bet for promotion, this is my bet for promotion. Atherton OR and Royalston will go through in the playoffs.
Correct.
Right? Now we've took 4 points out of blinking Royalston. That shows again the mentality side of it. Yeah. They've raised the game and raised the bar against Royalston both games and took them points off. If they do that consistently, we're in the playoffs or we're challenging at the top of the league.
But our form just don't make sense.
It's madness. But the week after they've done that against Royalston, we go to Ashton Athletic and what a bloody shit show that were.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying about mentality. And this is what I was getting at the beginning of the show, Steve. Yeah. You know, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, right? And I've got a good grip. But they set the bar. They're the ones that wanted the promotion. They were the ones that wanted the next challenge. This is 2 years ago. But they've had 2 years at it now, and now they failed. So it comes to a point where, you know, I'm talking to my coaches. I'm kind of having conversations with Ryan Russell, and I'm saying, you know, if we want to get promotion, which we do, right, we because look at it this way, right? There's no guarantee. This is the best way I can tell you. There is no guarantee whatsoever that we win that cup. We've a tough nut to crack with Southport. If we win Southport, league tables, league positions, or anything will go out the window because happy days will all be bouncing.
They'll go out the window for that one night.
Yeah,
you're thinking next season.
Exactly, but what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to point out at here and get my point across, it will go out the window because we've won a trophy again. So it'll go out the window. We're in the honours list. It will go out the window, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's a fine margin. If we lose against Southport and we're finishing where we're finishing, people won't look at that then. They'll just look at the fact, what a shit season that's been. Look where Bacups finished.
Yeah.
Fucking just above the relegation fucking area. It's fucking bollocks. That's what I'm trying to say. It's bollocks. It's rubbish. They need to smell the coffee. Everybody in this football club needs to smell the coffee. These lads need to step up big time. And I mean step up, right? Sort their heads out massively, because they set the bar to win promotion. And they're falling. They're bloody falling that fast, right? They're falling quicker than a bloody prostitute's drawers. It's freaking madness.
Well, it is. And it's, frustrating, disappointing. But as you said, we're still alive and kicking in we go to a cup final. So we've got to focus on that. But we've got 2 league games where players and positions should be up for grabs. Well,
they've got a tough... I mean, listen, forget that. We've got 2 league games. We've got a week now. We've got 2... Like I said, we've had Saturday. We've got Wednesday. And then we're into blinking... We're into a tough game on blinking Saturday, right? And then you know, but they're giving themselves. Listen, they've got enough role. These players, they're hanging themselves because there's no guarantee that I am going to go with these players if they're not doing it. There'll be no sentimental coming it to me. I'm a serial. I want to win, and that's my job. I work hard. And so does Deborah, and so does other people at this club. Jane Pallister, everybody. It's freaking, we work hard. I mean, I'm here at blinking 7:30 on a match day. I'm blinking walking up and down, blinking taking stuff down to the kitchen and blinking, getting the pitch right,
and
making sure everything's all right up and down, never freaking stop. And then the players turn up and then they put a shit show in like that. And they expect me to be blinking nice and happy. You know, they get the plaudits, fine, they deserve them plaudits. But my point is, at the end of the day, every time they fail against the blinking team, that they should be blinking absolutely tearing them apart. And it's not on. It's unacceptable. And they let everybody down on this blinking ground watching us today because that was a poor performance. Absolute poor performance. Taking nothing away from Steeton. They grafted, did something to blinking fight for, and they fought for it. And they got the 3 points. You know, the good Lord were obviously with Roy, and you know, I wouldn't want to see Steeton go down anyway because Roy's like me. He's been around a long time, and it's soul destroying. I mean, at the end of the day, he's in a worse situation than I am in a lot of ways because, you know, Steeton haven't got a bloody pot to pee in, and they haven't, you know, we haven't got a bar properly at the minute, but they've got no facilities, they've got nothing. So who's funding them players? You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. It's no surprise. That don't make Roy a bad manager. He's a good manager. And he's got them fired up. And he freaking knows our players. Our players have been the same players for the last few years. So he knows everything about our players. And he's got them fired up and he's got them working the fucking socks off. And they work the socks off. And, you know, no wonder they were celebrating. Somebody, like I said, Callum. Oh, I don't think they had nothing left in them. But they had. They were mathematically not safe.
But saying that, we as you said before, we've still got something to play for because this mindset of thinking of the 16th of April should be on the shelf. There's still league games to play and positions to play for.
Well, this is my point, Steve. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Taking the foot off the gas.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying because, again, it's that mentality. You've got players that's gone out there with niggles because why have they gone out there with niggles and not telling me? And not being honest because they don't want to lose the place. But that's fault. That's wrong. It's wrong.
They've got more chance of losing it by bullshitting you.
Yeah, they've more chance of losing it by bullshitting me. I'm going out there and putting an under-par performance in. It's not happening because I look at it, I see what's in front of me and I think, I'm not putting up with that. What's that about? And then I see the likes of, listen, I'm going to mention it. I see the likes of Brad Hancock's gone on there. He's had a shit year, right? And he's gone on. He
had a good 15, 20 minutes there.
He's got a big 15, 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, freaking hell, you know. So you get there. And I'm thinking, freaking hell, you know.
Well, that starts to put doubt in your mind, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. I'm thinking, he's going to be ready, him. He'll be ready. So he's going to be ready and he'll end up going in through the back door. Because I want no shit, Sherlock.
And miss 90% of the season.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I'm not going to freaking dismiss people if they're freaking like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Honestly.
I was going to talk about the Yeovil, but I'm going to leave that for next week because that's a bigger topic. That's a bigger talking point. But what I do want to pick up on very, very quickly, Brent, for the last 5 minutes. This week, you were on I had trials once. Gareth Seddon and Jordan Hume interviewing you, and 1 hour and 50 minutes of fantastic YouTube it were. You must have enjoyed it, mate.
I loved it, to be fair. I mean, I were nice and relaxed. And
you were. You did look quite chilled there, didn't you?
I were nice and relaxed. I mean, there's I thought the two lads did well with what they were doing. I mean, it were helped by somebody that obviously made some
nice questions for him.
Like who I'm speaking to, Steve. Yeah, I think you did a fantastic job because you helped him a little bit.
But it needed that because there's so many things you could have talked. You know, everyone knows you could have gone on for 10 hours, Brent, but it were only a 2-hour slot. So the questions, they need to be 6 or 7 nice, juicy questions and a lot of humour in there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the stories. You know, listen. At the time, you know, I'm going. Well, I'm relaxed in there, and I'm telling the stories. I'm kind of fuming. You know, I mean, the Andy Gorton situation. I mean, I could go on and on and on with the Andy Gorton situation. I mean, and the infamous chairman. You know, I mean, the tail goes on even more when I'm going mad because we had an embargo on in the FA Vars because the chairman hadn't even paid the money to Lincoln City. Lincoln City complained, so straight away the FA put an embargo on, right? So we were stuck. So I was going mad at the chairman at the time and saying, come on, Mr. Chairman, blinking heck, it's the FA Vars. In 2 weeks, we're playing in the FA Vars. We've gone through to another round. You know, and he used to say to me, Brent, you take care of the football, I will take care of the business. Leave this to me. So this particular day, so I went, right, okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm just telling you, you know, it's embarrassing is this. We've got this embargo. So next thing, he said, I've got good news for you. I've got the money together, and me and Andy Gorton, because what he did, he found Gorty some work on the ground, right? So he was always there around the chairman all the time. So this particular day, he says to me, don't you worry, we're on our way this morning, we're doing a car journey, and we're going to go over to Lincoln, and we're going to pay the money, right? And I'm going, happy days, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, that's brilliant, right? Next thing, I get a phone call from Gorty. They're over the Snake Pass. They've pulled up, they've brought down, this is the tale. So Gorty's ringing me and went, oh, Brent, we're having a nightmare. I went, what do you mean? I'm in a nightmare. Have you been to Lincoln? Oh, he said, we're set off. We're on our way. He said, we car brought down. He said, we've had to roll it down one of twisty bends, and we've pulled on this car park. And he said, and we had to set off to try and find a pub so we can make a phone call, you know, to get the car sorted. He said, but when we've got back to car, money's gone. I think you can believe it. I said, you what? He said, the money's got pinched. I said, so you haven't been with the money? He said, no, it's been pinched. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I expected you to believe that.
What we call the lion, Walter Mitter. Walter Mitter.
Yeah, Walter Mitter.
Walter Mitter. They're all sorts. It was crazy. At Glossop, there were crazy times. But, you know, everybody that were a part of that squad, even the Glossop lads, it was that crazy that people still talk about it today.
Yeah.
It was bad.
But it's a great show. You know, you talk about George Best driving him back to London. There's lots of other stories in there. But yeah, it's a good watch, and I believe I think it's well over 4,000 at the moment views this week. So
there'll be probably as good a watch this week, I would imagine, because one of my former players, and I'll just tell you this, I haven't seen any preview yet, but I know he's on. Paul Fowles, he's on. He's the one that's on now, and no doubt he'll have some pelters to throw at me because, let me tell you, I soon sussed Paul out. He's a good lad, is Paul. He scored a lot of goals in his career, and I signed Paul on deadline day to give us a leg up, to get us to win us the league, to get promotion up into the North West Counties division, Premier Division, which is now the Premier Division. So I brought Falsey in. He was on a contract, and there's no doubt in his goals. And because we weren't training at that particular time, you know, it were all games, and we were behind with our games. You know, you don't see the real character of the player. Just, you know, the all-round package. You know, he can score goals, and he did score goals, and he scored valuable goals for us to get us to win that league. But when we started pre-season, I soon found a different player because he didn't like training, and he went blinking hiding, and it used to wind me up, you know. And again, it's the old saying, you know, you give somebody enough rope and they'll hang themselves. And when it comes to start the season, contract or no contract, he didn't even get in the squad. So he was sat at home and he was like, well, you need to train better. So he absolutely hated me to a T. And eventually, David Hall, who actually took me on when I did my coaching, my early coaching badges, who were then at Blackburn Rovers, he took over at Nelson, and we were in here one night, and he says to me, what about Paul Fowles? And I said, he's on contract. He said, would you not? I said, I'll let you have him. Give me £1,000 and I'll and you can take him. Anyway, they did. To be fair, Nelson signed him. And then he went on. So no doubt there'll be some pelters thrown at me when you watch this episode. I don't know, but I haven't seen it, but he's on. But he's a good lad, is Paul, to be fair. He is a good lad, and there's no question in his ability on goal scoring and finishing. But as you know, what we just talked about, there's a lot more to football than just putting a ball in the net.
Brent, great show, mate. Great honesty. And I'll see you Wednesday.
Top man. Thanks, Steve.